Relatively calm weather for most of this week, but all eyes are already on next week. As you probably know, it's looking like we're going to get cold again. Well, we're going to talk about it, and we're not going to scare the pants off you either. We're just going to give you the honest truth as we know it, and we're not going to try to throw hyperbole in. Let's talk about it in this Monday edition of the Texas Weather Roundup. Good morning. I'm Texas Weather Center's Baldy-in-Chief David Reimer. It is Monday, 13th of January, 2025. Here in New Orleans, we're attending the American Meteorological Society's weather conference this week with a couple thousand of other fine folks. So, well, you get to see me from the 26th floor of the Hilton Riverside, but you don't really get to see it at all because of this magical super duper background that does look oh so good with my blue polo. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Let's take a look at the high-res rapid refresh model. It's a cold start to the morning across northwestern portions of Texas, down to the teens and 20s in the panhandle this morning. Well, good news is that'll be the last of that cold air for a wee bit. We'll see low temperatures tonight below freezing across the northwestern half of Texas, but certainly nothing comparable to last week, and we certainly don't have any snow falling out of the sky this week. Next week, debatable. As you can see, we are expecting a general uptick in cloud cover across the southeastern half of Texas going into tonight and into Tuesday, ahead of a storm system that's going to take shape in the western Gulf of Mexico Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, with the possibility of a few showers increasing in the Rio Grande Valley, deep south Texas, the Rio Grande Plains, maybe the southern Edwards Plateau, and even some misty, garbagey meh across central Texas, the Brazos Valley, the coastal plain, southeast Texas, as we get into Wednesday morning. Taking a look at the long-range American weather model, you can see that precipitation continuing into Wednesday afternoon. The heaviest rains off the coast in the Gulf of Mexico, but we may still see moderate rain at times along the Texas Gulf Coast, lower Texas Gulf Coast, the Rio Grande Valley, the coastal bend, the coastal plains, southeast Texas. That'll move out Wednesday night into Thursday. As you can see, next upper-level storm system starts to approach from the west coming into Friday. The opportunity for a few showers and thunderstorms across the eastern half of Texas, southeastern half of the state, Friday afternoon through Saturday morning, and then crashy the cold front arrives sometime Saturday into Sunday morning, and this one is going to pack a punch. Just like the ones we dealt with last week, this is going to be one of these that brings in a pretty good amount of cold air as we head into Saturday, Sunday, and then it looks like we're going to see the cold air stick around for a good chunk of next week. So let's talk about that in just a moment, but first, besides the rain chances tomorrow night into Wednesday, and then the rain chances Friday into Saturday morning, here are the forecast rain totals across the state of Texas over the next 5 days through 6 a.m. Saturday. You can see the potential for maybe up to a half-inch of rain across parts of East Texas, Southeast Texas, the Golden Triangle, the coastal plains, middle to upper Texas Gulf Coast, kind of a bit of a lull around the coastal bend. We'll see precip accumulations, words are difficult, looking lower, and then the potential for maybe a tenth to a quarter inch of rain in the Rio Grande Valley. Fire weather conditions over the next few days in the state, generally low to moderate, according to the Texas A&M Forest Service. So let's talk about, let's just skip ahead. Let's do this. Here's the temperature outlook next week. Notice the ominous-looking purple shades? Well, that doesn't mean Barney's coming to visit. Unfortunately, it means we are looking at another Arctic outbreak across the United States, and this one may actually impact a good majority of the United States versus sitting just east of the Continental Divide like last week. As we take a look at this, we do expect Crashy the cold front to come rolling on in Saturday into Sunday, with colder air filtering in behind that front for several days. It does look like we're going to remain on the cold side of the spectrum for a good chunk of next week. Now, as we also take a look at the precipitation outlook, below or near average to maybe a bit above average precipitation chances with cold air in place. So yes, winter weather fans will be watching carefully, but let's go ahead and temper our expectations here. Let's talk about what we know and what we don't know. Here is the European weather model ensemble. Now, I'm going to use words in here like deterministic and ensemble. deterministic model. That is what weather model graphics you typically see posted on social media that look like doom, gloom, whatever. That is a single model run. A ensemble is where you take that one model run and initialize it with slightly different parameters a few dozen times. So instead of one model, you get 50, all slightly different initialization parameters to account for a degree of error in the data being ingested into that model. And so why does that matter? Well, the ensembles allow us to gain a level of confidence in the forecast. If each ensemble has a drastically different solution output, we know, okay, everything has to come together just right, perfect, like that one model shows, for a solution to happen. If even something's a wee bit off, which is always going to happen here in meteorology with, computer models especially, then that forecast isn't going to verify and something else is going to happen. If all those ensembles, all 50, a couple dozen, show a similar solution, we know, okay, confidence in the forecast is higher, thus allowing for a higher forecast confidence, a more likely scenario. So that is why I'm showing you this. This is off the ensemble. 50 or so different runs of the same weather model initialized with different parameters, allowing us to gain a confidence level in the extended range forecast. This shows the probability of low temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit next Sunday. So, we can see northwestern half of the state, at least a 30 to 50% chance we have temperatures down into the teens early next week for low temperatures. Panhandle, probably some single digits, comparable to the coldest weather we saw last week. I'm showing you this because I'm well aware there have been a variety of model data images posted online in hyperbole saying, it's 2021, something crazy and drastic. And I'll admit, yesterday morning's European weather model run, the deterministic, a single weather model run, showed like half a foot to a foot of snow encompassing the entire state. Frankly, the eastern two-thirds of the United States, the model must have taken its doomsday spaghetti-o pill and just decided to go all nutso and throw out a bunch of snow. Now, is that completely impossible? I'll be honest with you. No. But it is very unlikely. First off, because like we saw last week, and like I said in so many of my videos, forecasting winter weather in Texas outside of 24 hours is extremely difficult because our winter weather is typically the just-in-time kind. Rain moving out as colder temperatures move in. Forecasting winter weather inside of 24 hours is difficult, just like we saw last week, with plenty of surprises. So, what I'm saying is, don't get hung up if one model run shows, or one model from one model run, there are many different weather models, show a crazy doomsday scenario, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 days away. That's going to happen. The same thing happens in the hurricane season. But for some reason, weather weenies, meteorologists, forecasters all feel like sharing, hyperbole model images 10 days out during winter is perfectly content and fine, but you do it with tropical and you're, nailed to the wall. So, in my opinion, both are similar in the sense that it's just hype and clickbait. That being said, yes, it is going to be cold next week. No, we do not know exactly how cold, but yes, it could be a pretty cold pattern. It's going to stick around for a few days, at least. So, that means some of y'all next week may not get above freezing for a couple of days if we end up going down the colder solutions. Does this look like 2021 where we ended up breaking record low temperatures set, 50, 80 years ago and had a winter storm warning for the entire state of Texas, 254 counties, and, had high temperatures near zero in the single digits? No. In fact, I don't even see any data from last night's model runs, ensemble or deterministic, suggesting that kind of an apocalyptic solution. Is it impossible? No, it's just statistically extremely unlikely. But even extremely unlikely solutions can happen from time to time, so we'll see. But again, there's no reason for y'all to freak out right now. I promise you, if there is, I'll tell you, because I'm going to give you a little hint as a digital influencer, as I've so kindly been nicknamed, whatever you want to call me, I don't really care. Influencers make money because the more clicks and shares they get, the more ad revenue they get. So if it looks like an apocalyptic solution where, 15 minutes of fame, guess what? We'd share it. But at the same time, I have some moral ethics on my side of the whole running the business here, where we don't do that just for the clicks. I'm not going to show you a spooky, scary solution just to make some extra money. I'm not in this for the money, first off. I really am not. Second off, no, that's not fair to anyone. Except, no. So that's why we don't do that. I realize others do, and you know what? They're free to run their business however they see fit. It's their business. But we don't. And we're not going to. So that's how next week is looking. Cold. We can't rule out winter weather, but nothing is set in stone or at this point looking super duper likely versus another scenario. Overnight model runs backed off the precipitous pattern during the cold weather next week, but it's certainly possible. I mean, especially if the cold weather does stick around for several days, which it probably will. That increases the likelihood we get an upper level storm system overhead with some colder air in place. Could I tell you where it would snow? No. We are in a big state, and we are talking about a week plus out. But confidence is high that it's going to get cold this weekend through several days of next week. Is it going to be record cold below zero? Unlikely at this point. Impossible? No. But not particularly likely. It all depends where the Siberian air mass from the north trends. If it's like last week where it mostly moved across the southeastern United States, eastern United States, and we got a glancing blow, it would be similar to last week. If it came right down east of the Continental Divide and we got the brunt, whatever you want it to be of it, it would probably be pretty cold. But guess what? It gets cold. It's January. I realize we're in Texas and we're proud of our, 70s in the winter. Guess what? It still gets cold. So really, I'm trying to say, don't freak out. Don't think it's 2021 or 2011. I realize every time we're going to get cold for a very long time, folks are going to remember that event and those events and think, is this that? This doesn't look like that right now. Could it change? Yes. But really, I don't want you to get hung up on it. There's no good in it. If it does start looking like that, I'll tell you. I really will. But it doesn't look like any sort of an apocalyptic solution right now. It's just going to get cold. It's January. If we're lucky, we might get some snow out of it. I say lucky because, dry, powdery snow is at least pretty and, fun. I realize it's inconvenient for a lot of folks, myself included, because I have to, fly across the country at the last minute and change plans, but it is what it is. You just got to look on the bright side of life. You can't live in fear all the time. There's my motivational speech for the day. Happy birthday. Here's today's high temperature forecast across the state. Again, it's going to be on the cool side. Highs in the 40s, panhandle parts of West Texas into the Guadalupe Mountains, Texoma, Northeast Texas, Northwest Texas, even down to parts of the Permian Basin, Big Country. Generally looking at 50s, southeastern half of the state with mid-60s. Ooh, Rio Grande Plains down into the Rio Grande Valley. Tomorrow, little colder across southern portions of Texas. We're still looking at 40s in the Panhandle, but we're warmer across the I-20 corridor. We'll be back up into the low to mid 50s. Still 40s trying to stick around the Red River in Texoma, Northeast Texas. 50s to 60s southern 2/3 of the state. So we get into Wednesday. We're generally looking at 40s to 50s across the state. I mean, yeah, it's cool out. That's for sure. It's definitely winter-like, but again, we're probably going to be colder next week, and we were colder last week. So I guess just enjoy the fact it's not 30 degrees right now with wind chills in the teens. Thursday, it's going to start warming up. Most of us back up in the upper 50s or 60s. And then Friday, ahead of Crashy the cold front and with the arrival of our storm system bringing Crashy the cold front, most of us are going to be back up into the 60s and 70s. enjoy it, because then the bottom is going to fall back out and we're going to be back to winter this weekend going into next week. So I realize I just spent a lot of time talking about the potential for next week and, kind of ran on a rant, tirade, digression. So, look, I know it's a fine line between balancing what you think is going to happen and trying to, clickbait all that. It's just a policy we've had here for, before all the videos, before many of you even knew I existed, back when we had the written weather blog, early 2010s. We're not going to go down the hyperbole road. We're really not. And I realize I probably could have been a millionaire by now if I had. But guess what? That's just not who I am. And being the owner of the company, that means that's not what our company is. So, with that being said, thanks for tuning in this morning, today. We appreciate all of you all for watching us here on the Texas Weather Center. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up if you appreciate the information. You may not like the forecast, but hey, it does help us with that magical algorithm here on the YouTubes. And if you haven't already, feel free to hit the subscribe button to get notified when we have new video updates posted. We're back to the typical schedule here on the Texas Weather Center, meaning we do one video a day, typically in the morning hours, and not on the weekends, usually. That being said, given the weather forecast this weekend, I can say we'll probably be doing videos at least once a day going through the foreseeable future, and if we have to deal with some winter mischief next week, we'll be going back to the 2 or even 3 videos a day schedule. So we're just going to have to wait and see in that department, but for now, yeah, it's going to get cold again this weekend, next week. And yeah, if we get a upper level storm system passing overhead during the times we're cold, yeah, we'll probably get some winter precipitation out of it for parts of Texas. But there's no use in trying to figure that out right now. There's really not. It's futile. Even some of your mobile apps, if you notice one day or one afternoon, it may show a blizzard. Check a few hours later, it may look completely different. Welcome to automated weather model land. That's going to be it for your Texas Weather Roundup here on the Texas Weather Center. Y'all have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow morning for Tuesday for your next Weather Roundup. Have a great day, and God bless.